Hey guys, we're going to take a look at the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16. And I've come up with about 14 or 15 questions that I don't know the answer to. And hopefully, together, looking at it, we might be able to come up with it. I'm not really sure how you can share your responses to me. You might be able to put them in the comments or something like that. I do have thoughts on all these questions. I think about them when I write them. But I'm definitely not positive of the correct answer. And I think that's a good way to look at things, is just kind of looking at with a question mark in mind. When I chose Matthew 16, I didn't realize how many questions there would be and how many are very difficult. And so we'll see how well this goes. I don't know if this video is going to work out here. I think I've got like a 5-minute time limit or something. Okay, well, anyway, let me go ahead and read on to the first section here, Matthew 16, and we'll see how far we get, okay? This is Matthew 16. The Pharisees and Sadducees came to Jesus and tested him by asking him to show them a sign from heaven. He replied, when evening comes, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning today it will be stormy, for the sky is red and overcast. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation looks for a sign, but none will be given it except the sign of Jonah. Jesus then left them and went away. So my first question to you, that was Matthew 16, 1 through 4. Okay, so what are the signs of the times today? It's a kind of a famous phrase, but what does it mean? And then the second question is, why do the wicked, he describes as wicked and adulterous, why do they look for a sign, a miracle? What is it that they're hoping for? And why would that be wrong? Why would it be wrong to be looking for a miraculous sign from God? Okay, let's read on. Hopefully, if you got some answers for that, give us some thought. Put them in the comments, okay? Now we're at verses 5 through 12. When they went across the lake, the disciples forgot to take bread. Be careful, Jesus said to them. Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. They discussed this among themselves and said, it's because we didn't bring any bread. Aware of their discussion, Jesus asked, you of little faith, why are you talking among yourselves about having no bread? Do you still not understand? Don't you remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000 and how many basketfuls you gathered? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000, and how many basketfuls you gathered? How is it you don't understand that I was not talking to you about bread, but be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees? Then they understood that he was not telling them to guard against the yeast used in bread, but against the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Okay, so question number 3, why did Jesus use code or parables instead of just, why didn't he just speak plainly? And why didn't he say be on guard against the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees? Why did he use this code? Next question, number 4, what are the teachings we need to guard against today that we should be on watch out for? Assuming there are some. Okay, next section. This is 16, 13 through 20. Okay. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? Well, they replied, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. But what about you, he asked, who do you say I am? Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. And then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone he was the Messiah. Oh boy, there's a bunch of questions here. Okay, so first of all, who is Jesus to you? Okay, so he asked the question. He says, who do people say that I am? And he got some common responses of that time, which was Elijah. They were waiting for Elijah. Some thought he might be like a Jeremiah or maybe another prophet. And he says, what about you? What do you say? So who is Jesus to you today? Who are you thinking of him as? And then the next one was, he said that God, Father in heaven, revealed the truth to Peter. So the question is, how does God reveal things to people? How does he reveal things to people today? Okay. Next question. This is a long series of questions. Really tough questions. People are really arguing about them today. Jesus says, and on this rock I will build my church. What is the rock? What is the rock that he's talking about? And he says, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. What are the gates of Hades? You don't often hear them referenced in modern language. And then I will give you the keys of the kingdom. What are the keys of the kingdom? And it says, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. So how do we bind and loose? So I realize that's a lot of tough questions. There might be a church teaching that you can fall back on. My church teaching probably wasn't too concrete on some of these issues, and so I have to kind of puzzle it out for myself, and maybe with your help I can do that. Okay, and then, I got more? Oh, yeah, why didn't Jesus want people to hear he was the Christ? So he says, then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. Why was he not interested in the publicity at that time? Okay, why didn't he want people to know or to hear it from them? Okay, next section is Matthew 16, 21 through 23. Okay, I think it's 21 through 23. Yeah, it is. From that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and on the third day be raised to life. Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "Never, Lord," he said, this shall never happen to you. Jesus turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." So my question is, so he explained to them what's going to happen, the death, burial, resurrection. When did Jesus know his fate? Did he know it from birth? Did he know it later? When did he know these things? Number 11 question is, was Jesus calling Peter Satan? He says, "Get behind me, Satan." Was he referring to Peter, or was he referring to a temptation he faced, like saying, "Hey, get behind me, Satan"? Like maybe he's being tempted to find a different direction. You remember in the Garden of Gethsemane, it seems like he's kind of hoping that things will go a different direction and he might get a better shake out of this deal, God, all things are possible to you. So was this a temptation he was kind of talking to himself about? Okay, I'm reading from verse 24 now, and I guess is it 24 at the end? It is. And once again, lots of questions here. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world and yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? For the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what they have done. Truly, I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." Okay, so it's like a long questions here. How can we lose our lives for Jesus? So the apostles died early. Okay, most of them died early and violently, but most Christians don't. So are they failures? That most people don't suffer for their faith. Most don't suffer to death. So how is it that we can give up our lives for Jesus? Next question, 13, I think it is. Why did Jesus say people would be rewarded for what they have done instead of what they believe? Now, I realize you could say what they did, they believed. Well, yeah, he could have said it. He could have. That might have been what he meant. but he said specifically they would be rewarded by what they've done. And I'll give you a little bit of hint on the background of this. So many people who are non-religious, or they're of a different religion, or their religion is confusing, they often fall back on being judged on what they've done. And yet the Christian faith tends to, the Protestant at least, usually tends to emphasize it's what you believe that counts. But Jesus seemed to confuse the issue here by making the same comment, and then he will reward each person according to what they have done. So why didn't he say believe, or what did he mean here? Okay. And then I think it's maybe the last question. He said some would not taste death before seeing the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. But of course, all the disciples, the apostles, as far as we know, are dead now. So what was this kingdom Jesus was referring to? This kind of became a hot button for many people, because as Christians, you usually don't like to think that Jesus would get it wrong, and yet this incident here seems to imply that the apostles were anticipating the quick and immediate return of Jesus in their lifetimes, and this was probably one of the reasons why, because they could see that he had said, you're gonna see the kingdom coming, and they anticipated a glorious new world, and maybe getting in their short lifetimes being able to enjoy that as well. And yet it's been 2,000 years, and people are kind of still anticipating that. So what did he mean by this? What was this kingdom? What was the event or the events that he was referring to? I think that's enough for now. So hopefully 12 minutes. I hope this isn't too long. I hope you can answer the questions in the comments. If it doesn't, I'll quit doing this, okay? All right. God bless.